And we can get started. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to BhagavatSanga program. This is our Śrīmad Bhāgavatam program where we read prayers of pure devotees. The current theme is prayers of King Satyavrata. These are beautiful prayers in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 8, chapter 24, from verses 46 to 53. Today we have a wonderful devotee, Mariel Mataji, who will be presenting these verses and sharing her realization. And this is also the first time Mariel Mataji is presenting in BhagavatSanga. So we look forward to your presentation, Mataji. Hare Krishna, over to you.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much for giving me the space to share my realizations. And I'd like to start with a prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatyaya Shatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vrasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpa Tarupyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyavascha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. So we are reading of prayers of King Satyavrata, and this is in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 8, chapter 4, and verses 46 to 53. So we're going to see a couple of verses today. And I'd like to start with the verse 46 that says, "The king said, 'By the grace of the Lord, those who have lost their self-knowledge since time immemorial, and who because of this ignorance are involved in a material conditional life full of miseries, obtain the chance to meet the Lord's devotee. I accept that Supreme Personality of Godhead as the Supreme Spiritual Master.'" And I really like this verse because it has so much depth. It's full of transcendental knowledge and so much truth. And specifically because it says that we forgot who we are. We don't know who we are, and we don't even know when we forgot this. And because of that, we are involved in this material world, and we are conditioned to believe that our self is connected to our outward conditions, like our social status, or wealth, or degrees, or looks. And that's misery, because that's all impermanent, ever-changing, and is an illusion. But by the mercy of the Lord, by His grace only, there's no other reason, we get to meet a Lord's devotee. And when that happens, all our desires come true. That's the best thing that can happen to a human, to an animal, to a plant, to anything alive in this world. And that reminds me of how I am here, how I found this beautiful knowledge and this new life. And I like to reflect on that. So I grew up in a Western culture, and I follow the steps for happiness. I did what I thought I needed to do to be happy, and I found myself in a place of being very disappointed with life, not being happy, doing everything I thought I needed to do, and feeling very lonely and sad internally. And one day I was walking with friends in Mexico, where I am from, and I saw these people jumping up and down with a lot of instruments, singing, dancing like I'd never seen nobody dance in the middle of the day. And I remember that moment, like everything stopped, and I just thought, that's happiness. That's happiness. And I asked my friends, like, who is these people? Like, this is happiness in person. And due to my condition, and I asked, like, do they do drugs or what is this? Like, what? They are so happy. And my friends knew little. One friend told me, like, oh yeah, they are the Hare Krishnas. Like, sometimes they are here. And we didn't make much of it. Our date continued. And that moment really made an impression in my soul. And it took like 5 years of Krishna appearing in my life in very subtle ways. But it took 5 years for me to finally decided to look for a temple. And that happened to be the Hare Krishna Temple of Austin. And that day, all my desires were fulfilled, even the desires that I didn't even knew I had, because by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, we have a path, a direct path to Krishna, to his eternal kingdom. He showed us how we can do that. What do we need to do to get out of this entanglement? And that means that we don't have to live in darkness anymore. We don't have to live disappointed of this material world, because we know what we can do to touch that happiness that I saw that day when I saw the devotees dancing. So those are the key points for me of this verse. That first, we are unhappy because we forgot who we are. We don't have the knowledge of ourselves, and we don't even know how many lifetimes we've been like this. And only by the grace of the Lord, a huge, huge blessing, we get the chance to meet a Lord devotee. And the second verse says, in hopes of becoming happy in this material world, the foolish conditioned soul performs fruited activities that result only in suffering. But by rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes free from such false desires for happiness. May my Supreme Spiritual Master cut the knot of false desires from the core of my heart. These are very beautiful prayers from a very elevated souls, a very beautiful desire. And it just shows more how our true self wants to be happy. But the problem is that we look to be happy in a place that is not suitable for that, because everything here is ever changing, is impermanent, or an illusion. So everything that we do, and especially in the West, we have so many activities, so many things that we can do to find that happiness, but it ends up in suffering only, every time. But when we find the devotee and we start rendering service to the Lord, we start becoming free from that false desire for happiness, because the desire for happiness doesn't go away, but we start recognizing that the desire for happiness in the material activities is false, leads me to suffering. But when I have a desire to be happy with the devotees or serving the Lord, that taste for joy is eternal. It's a real taste, it's real happiness. So this I really like this, and I love the desire that he's expressing here, that he wants the spiritual master to cut the knot of false desires, because that's what's going to lead us to the eternal happiness. And I like to illustrate that here on how we grew up thinking like social status, certain activities, looks, and knowledge will make us happy. But all of these end up in suffering, no matter what. There's so many stories of superstars and like millionaires that have very, very sad lives, or end up like committing suicide, or very tragic stories, because it's not what our soul wants. They appear to have everything, and they are not happy because it's not our true self, but they don't know this. And this can never make us happy. If that were the happiness, they will be forever happy and share with everyone, but it's not true, because it's impermanent, it's an illusion, doesn't last. But when we start rendering service to the Supreme Lord, however we can, however we know, even if it's just hearing, chanting, singing, offering a leaf, thinking of Krishna, being with his devotees, we become to taste that joy and stop desiring this false happiness. And that's a huge step. And the next verse says, one who wants to be free of material entanglement should take to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and give up the contamination of ignorance involving pious and impious activities. Thus, one regains his original identity, just as a block of gold or silver sheds all dirt and becomes purified when treated with fire. may that inexhaustible Supreme Personality of Godhead become our spiritual master, for he is the original spiritual master of all other spiritual masters. Another beautiful explanation and prayer here that is telling us that the key is to be sick of the material world, to be done with it, to be really disappointed, so we can have the desire to not be in those activities anymore, to want something else, like to really desire to get out of this material entanglement. Because from that desire, the Lord and His mercy and His devotees will help to get out of that entanglement, of that ignorance, of the contamination of ignorance, with all these activities that we realize far from Krishna, not thinking of him, we become contaminated again. Even sometimes these activities seem to be good, but it's just good in a platform of material world, not in the, they are not really connected to God. All of these are just contamination for us. It's not leading us to our true self. But when we start engaging in the devotional service, we regain the knowledge of the self. We are able to come back to our original identity, to who we truly are. And the example here is very beautiful, that just like the block of gold or silver sheds all dirt and becomes purified, regains its eternal shine, we can also do that gradually by rendering service, by associating with devotees, and having this desire of no more material activities or no more material pursuit of happiness. Because we are starting to learn that this is not what we are meant to do. This is not true happiness. And sometimes it takes many, many times, many, many lifetimes to try and fail, because it's very easy to start in the path of bhakti and then again, little by little, start doing other activities that distract us from our service. And we end up again in another entanglement, in another disappointment, in another suffering. And it's because we forgot that we are not meant for this, that we are really here to serve the Lord. And that's pure joy. And that joy never goes away, it's eternal. And I like to illustrate this with this picture of breaking free. We can break free of the suffering of this material world just by desiring to be free from it. We still have to be in the material world and live through all of these disappointments, but it's very different when we know our true self, when we have this knowledge, and when we serve the Lord. Because when we serve the Lord with love, He reciprocates in our heart, and it starts to make easy understanding that we are not meant to be here. So when we face these difficulties, we can see it through His eyes of love, and understand that it's meant for us to be purified and go back to Him and one day regain our original identity. So yeah, it's all in His holy name, and I want to thank you all for your time here, and forgive me if I made mistakes. And yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. You still have time. Did you want to cover more?
I thought I was gonna run out of time, so I just prepared until this.
Okay, no issues. But that was such an amazing, amazing presentation, Mataji. So beautiful. Really like how you internalized these verses, understood the meaning, and connected it with your realizations, like what you went through. It was definitely a very emotional story, the way you began with how you first time saw the Hare Krishnas in Mexico. That was so beautiful. And the some of the key points that struck to me that I would like to bring up is that as you were describing your story, I remembered chant and be happy. That's the way for our happiness, chanting. And when we serve with the devotees, it could be like this class, this program we are hearing you present. We're glorifying the pure devotees. we feel happy when we do that. When we're chanting, we are serving together, that brings us happiness. And our whole purpose of being here, our identity is to serve the Supreme Lord. That is the only way we can become happy. And all this material world, as you said, the examples of no matter how much money you have, fame and name and beauty, nothing survives in the end. They all lead to sufferings. So the only true happiness is serving the Lord, not serving yourself. And once you become contaminated when you're not serving the Lord, you get more entangled and more contaminated. And it's very temporary. It just ends this life. But then devotional service continues life after life. So that is the thing. Great, Mataji. Very nice, very nice. With your first presentation, it was beautiful. Thank you so much for doing this service. We're fortunate to hear you. Devotees, thank you all for joining. I know it's a weekday, but it's so nice to see all of you all here joining the BhagavatSanga program. See you all next week. Hare Krishna.